Hello everyone, and welcome to Deep Dive Unscripted. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé know the franchise is filled with shocking twists, international romance, and emotional fallout. But today's story may be one of the most shocking betrayals ever connected to the show. According to multiple sources, Georgi recently sold a property for around $1 million. What happened next is what stunned everyone. After the sale, the money allegedly disappeared. Sources claim Darcey Silva took the entire amount and fled with a man she had been secretly involved with for years, a man known as Alex. Even more shocking, Darcey later divorced Georgi and officially married Alex. To understand how devastating this betrayal is, we first need to look at Darcey and Georgi's very public relationship. Their love story played out over several seasons of 90 Day Fiancé. Viewers watched their constant ups and downs, tearful makeups, explosive arguments about money and ambition, and big romantic gestures meant to fix everything. The story presented to the audience was simple: two flawed people trying desperately to make love work. Georgi, the Bulgarian personal trainer, was often portrayed as lazy, unmotivated, and dependent on Darcey's money and fame. Darcey, the Connecticut-born entrepreneur and reality TV star, appeared emotional and vulnerable, searching for a strong partner who could support her and love her fully. But according to what has now come to light, the reality may have been far darker. After years of turbulence, Darcey Silva and Georgi quietly married in 2022. It was meant to be a fresh start. Together, they bought a home in Middletown, Connecticut. The house symbolized commitment and a shared future. It appeared constantly on social media: romantic photos, happy moments, and signs of stability. Georgi later said the house meant everything to him. He described it as their shared project and their safe place after years of public drama. They chose furniture together, painted the walls, and even planted a tree in the backyard. To him, it was the foundation of their life once the cameras were gone. But behind the scenes, sources say the relationship was still struggling. Money, trust, and very different life goals continued to cause tension. Darcey spoke often about building a global empire and expanding the House of 11 brand. Georgi wanted something simpler: stability, maybe opening a gym or fitness business. Darcey reportedly saw this as a lack of ambition. She often said she needed a man who could match her energy and lifestyle. During this period of private conflict and public smiles, Georgi made a major decision. He owned a valuable property in Bulgaria from before his relationship with Darcey. With the real estate market strong, the couple allegedly agreed to sell it and use the money to strengthen their life in Connecticut, pay off their mortgage, and invest in new business ideas. According to Georgi, this was a joint decision. They discussed it for months. He believed that as husband and wife, their finances were shared. What was his was hers, and what was hers was his. The sale took time, but in early 2024, the property sold for just over $1 million. After fees and taxes, the money was wired into a joint bank account that both Darcey and Georgi could access. Sources say this moment, when the funds cleared, was the beginning of a plan that had been unfolding for over 2 years. While Georgi believed he was building a future with his wife in Connecticut, Darcey was allegedly living a second, secret life. Investigators claim Darcey had been in a hidden romantic relationship with a man named Alex for 2 full years. Digital forensic analysis and testimony from sources suggest their first contact happened in March 2022. It reportedly began as a simple fan message on Instagram from an account using a different name. Alex was charming and flattering. He understood Darcey's public image and brand. He wasn't just a fan. He presented himself as a strategist. According to findings, Alex is a 35-year-old Australian national from Sydney. He claimed to be a successful entrepreneur in the luxury goods industry, though details about his business remain unclear. What was clear is that he represented a completely different world from Georgi. Alex was jet-setting, glamorous, and distant from everyday problems. He sent photos from yachts in Monaco and luxury hotels in Dubai. He spoke confidently about international deals and high finance. He offered fantasy. Georgi, by contrast, represented daily life, chores, bills, and real-world stress. The relationship between Darcey and Alex allegedly took place almost entirely through encrypted apps like WhatsApp and Telegram. They scheduled video calls when Georgi was away at the gym or running errands. Sources say that over time, Alex became more than a secret admirer. He became Darcey's emotional support and, importantly, her financial advisor. People close to Georgi say he noticed changes. Darcey became protective of her phone. It was always face down, always on Do Not Disturb. She claimed the late-night calls were from business partners or producers. Georgi says he trusted her and never imagined she was leading a double life under the same roof. Investigators also claim Darcey and Alex met in person at least 3 times over the 2-year period. These trips were allegedly disguised as business travel or girls' weekends. Digital records reportedly show flight searches and hotel stays that don't match the stories Georgi was told. According to sources, the meetings took place in locations chosen to avoid suspicion. Over time, the conversations between Darcey and Alex reportedly shifted. Money became a central topic. Alex allegedly began questioning Georgi's intentions and abilities. He suggested that $1 million was too much responsibility for someone without business experience. Messages recovered during legal discovery reportedly show Alex encouraging Darcey to see herself as the true star, the brand, and suggesting the money should be controlled by her alone. According to investigators, this was a calculated effort to isolate her from Georgi and position himself as the solution. And once the money became available, everything changed. The plan was no longer just about love. It was about money. And the trigger for that plan was the sale of Georgi's house in Bulgaria. The money from the sale hit Darcey Silva and Georgi Rusev's joint Wells Fargo account on a Tuesday morning. The balance showed just over $1,007,458.32. For the first 2 days, everything appeared normal. Georgi later said they even went out to dinner to celebrate. Darcey was calm, affectionate, and positive about the future. Georgi said she told him they should not touch the money right away. She suggested letting it sit for a few weeks and thinking carefully before making any decisions. Georgi agreed. He believed they were finally on the same page. But according to investigators, that conversation was never genuine. Letting the money sit was never the plan. On Thursday, Darcey went to the bank alone. Sources inside the bank, who asked to remain anonymous due to ongoing legal proceedings, revealed what happened next. Darcey, a recognizable public figure, presented her identification and explained that she and her husband were preparing to make a large business investment. She said they needed to wire the funds immediately. Normally, a wire transfer of that size from a joint account requires approval from both account holders, but Darcey reportedly told the bank that Georgi had been called away suddenly due to a family emergency in Bulgaria. She claimed he had already signed a letter authorizing the transfer before leaving. She provided the letter. According to bank sources, the document looked professional. It included what appeared to be Georgi's signature. Investigators later determined the letter was a forgery, an extremely convincing one. Whether the employee was starstruck or simply misled by the paperwork, the wire transfer was approved. Nearly the entire account balance, minus small fees, was sent to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands under the name of a shell corporation. Say the Cayman Islands are known for strict banking secrecy. Once money reaches an account there, it can be quickly moved through multiple international accounts, making it almost impossible to trace. According to investigators, this level of planning pointed to Alex's influence and expertise. By Thursday afternoon, the money was gone. Georgi had no idea. The final part of the plan began the next day. On Friday, Georgi left the house for a scheduled physical therapy appointment for an old shoulder injury. He was gone for about 3 hours. That window, investigators say, was exactly what Darcey needed. Georgi later described coming home to a house that felt wrong immediately. It was too quiet. Darcey's favorite shoes were missing from the doorway. He called out to her, but there was no answer. When he went upstairs, he saw that her walk-in closet was half empty. Her designer bags, jewelry, and personal items were gone. On the bedroom vanity, next to an empty jewelry box, was a single handwritten note. Georgi said he read it over and over, but could not breathe. He collapsed to the floor. At first, he thought something terrible had happened to her. He believed she might have been kidnapped. He called the police in a panic. While Georgie was speaking to authorities, Darcey was already at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. Using a passport she had renewed months earlier, supposedly for international filming, and paying with a private credit card, she checked in for a first-class, non-stop flight from New York to Sydney, Australia. She boarded the plane under her own name. The flight departed at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time. As the plane climbed into the night sky, Darcey Silva was leaving her husband and her old life behind. Police later told Georgi that Darcey's phone last pinged near JFK Airport before being turned off completely. They checked flight records and confirmed she was on a plane to Sydney. Georgi said the destination made no sense to him. He didn't know anyone in Australia. But then he remembered the late-night calls, the secrecy, and the way she smiled at her phone. That's when everything collapsed. He logged into the bank account. The balance showed $82.11. The $1 million was gone. Georgi later said he lost everything in one day. His wife, his home, his future, and his life savings. For several days, Darcey's disappearance remained a mystery. Then photos surfaced. Blurry paparazzi images appeared showing Darcey at a beachside cafe in Manly, a suburb of Sydney. She looked relaxed and happy, holding hands with a tall, unidentified man. That man was Alex. The story exploded overnight. What began as a missing person case shifted into a possible international financial crime. Shortly after, Georgi was served with divorce papers at his home in Connecticut. The documents were delivered by international courier. The filing cited irreconcilable differences and accused Georgi of financial irresponsibility during the marriage. Georgi said the claims were false and strategic. His attorney later explained that the filing appeared designed to confuse the timeline and weaken future financial claims before the fraud allegations became public. Before Georgi could even respond legally, another shock followed. Darcey's official Instagram account, silent since her disappearance, posted a new photo. She had not only left her husband and taken the money, but she had also married another man in a foreign country within weeks. The move stunned the public. The legal battle that followed became extremely complicated. Georgi's lawyers filed lawsuits in the United States alleging theft, fraud, and forgery. But Darcey was now in Australia, and the money had allegedly passed through offshore accounts. Legal experts say these cases are among the most difficult to prosecute. Different countries, different banking laws, and the fact that the accused is a spouse make everything more complex. Even with extradition treaties, proving international financial fraud can take years with no guarantee of recovery. Meanwhile, Georgi could no longer afford the mortgage on the Connecticut home. The house they built together became a reminder of betrayal. He was forced into a short sale and eventually moved into a small rental apartment. Georgi says he lost more than money. He lost trust, stability, and belief in love itself. As of this recording, Darcey Silva and her new husband, Alex, remain in Australia. They continue posting images of their luxurious lifestyle on social media. Georgi Rusev continues fighting his legal battle, but he says the emotional damage may never fully heal. It is a story with no easy ending, no clean resolution. A story not just of stolen money, but of a life taken apart. And as new updates continue to emerge, one thing remains clear. This is a reminder that the realities shown on television often hide much darker truths behind the scenes, that in the weeks that followed, the fallout spread far beyond Georgi's personal life. What began as a private betrayal quickly turned into a public spectacle, pulling in fans, media outlets, legal experts, and former cast members from the 90 Day Fiancé universe. Online, the reaction was explosive. Fans who once criticized Georgi now questioned everything they had been shown on television. Old scenes were rewatched with new eyes. Moments where Darcey accused Georgi of using her money were reframed. Viewers began asking whether those narratives had been distractions, whether the real manipulation had been happening quietly, off camera. Social media platforms filled with debates. Some users expressed disbelief, saying the story sounded too extreme to be real. Others said the pieces fit together too perfectly to ignore. Many focused on the timing, pointing out that Darcey's emotional distance in later appearances now made sense. Former friends of the couple also began speaking anonymously to bloggers and entertainment reporters. Several claimed Darcey had been talking about starting over somewhere far away long before the money was transferred. Others said she often spoke about feeling trapped by the image the show created and wanted a life that felt bigger, more glamorous, and less controlled. Alex, however, remained almost completely silent. Aside from appearing in a few distant photographs and background shots on Darcey's social media, he avoided interviews and public statements. Investigators believe this silence was intentional. Any public comment could be used against him if legal proceedings expanded beyond Darcey. Legal experts weighed in on the complexity of the case. Because the money came from a joint account, Darcey's defense could argue she had legal access to the funds. Prosecutors, on the other hand, focused on the alleged forgery, deception of bank officials, and the coordinated international transfer of money. The forged authorization letter became a key piece of evidence. Handwriting analysts were brought in. Digital forensic experts examined printer metadata, document timestamps, and formatting inconsistencies. According to sources close to the investigation, early findings suggested the letter had been created shortly before the bank visit, not before Georgi supposedly left the country. Still, building a criminal case across borders proved slow. In Australia, Darcey and Alex appeared to live freely. They rented a luxury apartment near the coast and were frequently photographed dining at high-end restaurants. Darcey posted inspirational captions about choosing peace, protecting her energy, and finally being understood. To many observers, the posts felt calculated. Back in Connecticut, Georgi's reality could not have been more different. He sold what few valuables he had left to cover legal fees. Friends described him as withdrawn and exhausted. He stopped going to the gym regularly and avoided public appearances altogether. In one private conversation later shared with investigators, Georgi said the hardest part was not the money, but the realization that the marriage may never have been real. He replayed moments in his mind, late-night conversations, promises about the future, discussions about children, and questioned whether any of it had been genuine. He wondered how long Alex had been part of those decisions, silently influencing everything. Psychologists who reviewed the case publicly described it as a textbook example of emotional manipulation combined with financial exploitation. They noted how Darcey allegedly maintained two parallel lives, carefully separating them until the moment the plan could be executed. As months passed, the legal process continued at a crawl. Court filings were delayed by jurisdictional disputes. Requests for financial records from offshore banks were met with resistance. Every step required coordination between multiple governments and agencies. Meanwhile, Darcey filed additional motions in Australia, attempting to establish residency and complicate potential extradition efforts. Her legal team argued that the situation was a marital dispute, not a criminal conspiracy. Georgi's attorneys strongly disagreed. They argued that the premeditated nature of the actions, the fake letter, the shell corporation, the timed disappearance, proved intent. This, they said, was not a messy divorce. It was a planned financial crime. Public opinion remained sharply divided. Some supporters of Darcey claimed she had escaped an unhappy marriage and was being unfairly targeted. Others argued that no emotional justification could excuse deception, forgery, and the complete financial destruction of another person. Former 90 Day Fiancé cast members cautiously commented without taking sides. Several said the pressure of reality television often worsens personal flaws and amplifies unhealthy dynamics. Others admitted the situation was unlike anything they had ever seen connected to the franchise. Network executives declined to comment. As the year progressed, updates slowed. The story faded from headlines, replaced by newer scandals and trending topics. But for Georgi, the consequences remained constant. He rebuilt his routine slowly. He returned to training clients, focusing on work to stay grounded. Therapy became part of his weekly schedule. Friends said he was learning to live with uncertainty, even if closure never came. In private moments, Georgi admitted he no longer expected to recover the money. What he wanted most was acknowledgement that what happened to him was real, that it mattered, and that it wasn't just another piece of entertainment. As of the latest update, Darcey, Silva, and Alex remain in Australia. They continue to share glimpses of their life online, carefully curated and filtered. There has been no public apology, no direct response to the allegations, and no explanation offered to Georgi. The legal battle continues quietly in the background. Whether justice will ever be fully served remains unknown. What is clear is that this story has left permanent damage, financial, emotional, and psychological. It stands as a cautionary tale about trust, power, and the dangers of living between reality and fantasy. For Georgi Rusev, the cost of believing in love was everything. And for those watching from the outside, it is a reminder that behind